So the question is that clauses 2, 3 and 4 stand part.
Mr Chairman.
Stuart Nash.
Thank you very much, Mr Chairman. I mean, despite what our Green friend said, the economic reality is that this bill had to pass through the House. There's no doubt about that. But I suppose the reason why a number of my colleagues have expressed concern about this bill, Mr Chair, is because we all know, even the Nats know, that this is really a sloppy way to put legislation in place. It's a very sloppy way to manage something that is very important to our environment. And, you know, if we have a look at actually Clause 5, it says, and I quote, the activity, we're talking about the drilling for gas here, everyone knows what we're talking about, the activity may continue without a marine consent until the application is decided under 62 and any appeals may be determined. What this basically says to the people of New Zealand, Mr Chair, is this is going to go ahead no matter what. Don't bother appealing because the activity's there and that is the way it is. Now, I don't think that's a particularly democratic way to do things. There is a lot better way to draft legislation that allows us to get this sort of bill through the House. Now, there's no point in apportioning blame to Tods or to the government. The bottom line is we have ended up in a situation that we have all admitted is suboptimal. And I have heard national members stand up and say congratulations to Scott Simpson the way this has been managed. Well, I would say that if the chair was on the ball when the original legislation came through the House, they would have noted, and even the officials would have noted, that this is a glaring admission. One of our largest gas platforms has not consented, and the legislation doesn't cover this. So I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure what went on in the Select Committee process, Mr Chair. I'm sure if you'd been the chair of the committee, this wouldn't happen in any way, shape or form. But it is really messy legislation. But it also cuts to the heart of what we believe as a country. And Megan Woods has spoken about this. Our global brand is around clean, green, 100% pure. It's what we go out there and market. I mean, the Department of Economic Development, whatever they were called way back when, valued our brand at $20 billion a year. This was in 2005, so I'm sure it's worth a lot more than that. And that is, and the research also showed that 80% of New Zealand companies, Mr Chair, who seek to engage with overseas markets actually leverage off our brand. And so part of this, and that's right, Mr Butler, you have heard this before, because I think it is such an important point. And the government keeps missing the mark on it, and I just don't get it, because it is so important to our country. And part of what we've done by highlighting this, Mr Chair, is that we have worked incredibly hard, and the Labor government worked incredibly hard to actually develop a regulatory environment which was first world. Because overseas we are judged on how we manage the regulatory environment, on how big oil companies operate in our exclusive economic zone. And by doing this, by having this sort of legislative burp, I suppose, or misstep, it just says to the world that we're not on top of our game. And that also plays into our global brand of being a fantastic citizen and protector of the environment. We have got to get the sort of thing right. And I say to the minister who's in charge of this, and I understand it's not the minister in the chair, but I say he's got his own issues managing a $2 billion 10-year project. Good luck with that one. But I do say to the minister involved with this, we have got to do better than this. We really do, Mr Chair, as a country, because if we continue to develop legislation in such an important area that does have a major consequence on our global brand, then we will undo a whole lot of work that over the years has led to a reputation we've got at the moment. Back in the good old days, we were seen as the cowboys of the Wild West. You came down here, you did whatever you wanted to do, it didn't matter, and then you got out. And if we were lucky as a country, it went well. If we weren't lucky, then it didn't go well, but who cared? Because we were at the bottom of the Pacific, no one cared. That's changed. The way we do business has changed. The way we do business in this country and the messages that we send to overseas markets has changed. But this sort of legislation, Mr Chair, takes us back to the bad old days. Now, we have caught it. The fact, though, that as mentioned in the legislation Clause 5, it basically says you don't need a consent to do this. So this is going to be retrospective consenting if, in fact, there are a whole lot of appeals. And I don't know if there will be, but if there are, and there is nothing good about retrospective consenting in this sort of environment. The other thing that this does is this just gives impetus to those, and I'm one of them, I must admit, Mr Chair, to those who put up the argument for alternative energies. We have got a good story to go to the market at the moment. You know, we are 80% renewables in terms of our electricity generation. And that is a very good story. But both the National Party and the Labor Party have a target of 90% in 10 years. I think we'll get there. But this sort of stuff says, you know, Mr. Chair.
I call the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Oh.